The spinal cord itself is always protected and encased in this nice bony structure of the vertebrae. So if you have a model that shows you with the vertebrae, it's kind of nice because it gives an overall perspective. We'll go through structures with the vertebrae, then I'll also show a model that does not have the vertebrae, because each one gives a little different perspective when you're trying to orientate. Now when you look at this particular model, we're going to see the three different meninges again, just like the brain. So if we zoom in a little bit, you're now going to see a little clearer view of the different meninges here. So we're going to start with the bone itself, the vertebrae. The first thing we'll see is this fat-filled or adipose-filled layer, which is called the epidural space. Epi above, so it's epidural. This part right here is going to be the Dura Mater, sometimes known as the Spinal Mater. You can then go just below that. So there's a little line differentiating here. The one just below this, that is going to be your Arachnoid Mater. And again, we have the Subarachnoid Space here. And then we have the Pia Mater, which is tight to the actual spinal cord. So all in all, we have three different spaces and three meninges. We have the epidural space, the Dura Mater, that thin little line here is the subdural space, then the Arachnoid Mater, then this larger space is the Subarachnoid Space, which then leaves us with the Pia Mater right here. Some other things you'll notice and be able to see are these, in this case, yellow lines coming off. These are going to be the way information is entering and exiting the spinal cord from the peripheral nervous system. What we have here is going to be the dorsal root and ventral root. The dorsal root is only going to carry sensory info coming in. So this is only carrying sensory info in. While the ventral root is only carrying motor info out. Now if there's a vertebrae in place, no problem. We can tell this is going to be the spinous process up top up here, coming off. So we know that's posterior, hence dorsal root. But a way to tell otherwise, we zoom just a little bit back out. If you follow now this dorsal root out, you come to this thicker, or this bulge right here. This is referred to as the dorsal root ganglion. Now if you remember, ganglion is referring to a cluster or a bundle of cell bodies, or soma, in the peripheral nervous system. So this dorsal root ganglion is where all the sensory neuron cell bodies are located before they continue on into the dorsal root. Now that dorsal root brings all that sensory information in to this spot right here. This is the dorsal horn. So if we zoom back in a little bit, so right here we have the dorsal horn. You can see it's touching the surface and it receives all the sensory input. We then have the lateral horn right here and the ventral horn right here. The ventral horn is where you'll have all your motor output. That's where the multipolar motor neurons are found. They're sending information out to the ventral root. And now it is the same on both sides, mirror image. And the way they can communicate is across this little bit of gray matter right here. This is referred to as the gray commissure, kind of like a bridge between the two. And right in the very center of the gray commissure is that little dot right there. That dot is the central canal. The central canal contains cerebral spinal fluid. Your central canal is going to be continuous from the cerebral aqueduct of the brainstem. Now that we've mentioned about this gray matter, which is helping with communication from the central nervous system, spinal cord, out to the peripheral nervous system, we can talk about the white matter, which is helping with communication going up and down, or ascending and descending the spinal cord. We're going to have three regions again. Here, since we're on the dorsal or posterior surface, this is the posterior funiculi. This is the lateral funiculi, and this is going to be the anterior funiculi. So those three regions have all of your ascending and descending tracts, how all of your sensory information is traveling up the spinal cord, how all of your motor information is traveling down the spinal cord. But they're separated or split right in half by this indent and this indent. So now, since we know we're on the dorsal side here, or the posterior side, this is the posterior median sulcus. Posterior median sulcus. Well, since we're on the anterior side, this is the anterior median fissure. Anterior median fissure. This particular model is showing a spinal cord without a vertebrae around it. We still have all the same structures. We still have the gray matter inside. We still have the white matter outside. So we have, what we can tell right here is our dorsal root ganglion, which means this is the dorsal root, dorsal horn, lateral horn, and then ventral horn, ventral root coming out. So we think about how our information is traveling. We bring in our sensory info from the dorsal root ganglion to the dorsal root, into the dorsal horn, then it goes through, and we have these interneurons potentially, which help to communicate, down to this, a little bit maybe the lateral, but mostly the ventral horn, out the ventral root, and out to the rest of the body. Sometimes communication goes from right to left or left to right. So that's where this gray commissure comes into play. It's going to connect the right and left sides of the gray matter. And again, right in the very center, this canal here is the central canal. We're going to have our posterior, lateral, and anterior funiculi. And we also then have our posterior median sulcus and our anterior median fissure. Now just looking at the other side of this model, we can notice right here we have our two roots, our dorsal and ventral roots, how they're joining at one point. So this is going to be a spinal nerve. The spinal nerves have information coming in both directions. That means you have both the sensory coming in as well as the motor coming out. So you can carry your sensory inputs on the spinal nerve to the dorsal root ganglion, dorsal root, which comes to the dorsal horn or the posterior horn, anterior or ventral horn, and out the ventral root, back to the spinal nerve. So you have this spinal nerve here that is allowing for bidirectional communication. It's both sensory and motor. While the dorsal root is only unidirectional, sensory in, and the ventral root is also unidirectional, motor out.